Hello, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We are just going to give the other attendees registered a minute to join us, so the line will go a little quiet for a minute and a half, and then I'll be back with you. Okay, I think those that are intending to join have joined. So hello and welcome to the Manufacturing Operations Management Institute IIoT Convergence is not just about technology webinar. My name is Sarah Knight and I am the Global Education Program Manager for MOMi. And I will be hosting and introducing our presenter today. Just before we get started and I introduce you to Jan formally, I would like to make you aware the webinar session is being recorded. The recording will be published on our website and we will share it with you once the webinar is finished. You can ask questions at any time via the question and chat box or raise your hand. And then at the end, we are hoping to have some time, around about 5 minutes for a Q&A. Jan will happily answer questions. We encourage you to get involved. I will unmute you all, but you will need to unmute yourself if you'd like to get involved in the conversation. Having said all of that, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce you to today's presenter, Jan Snoeij. Jan is President and Senior Business Consultant at MOMi and has over 35 years experience supporting manufacturers. He's also a MESA International Board member and a MESA approved instructor. Jan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for your kind introductions, and welcome to all participants to this webinar, indeed about IT-OT convergence. And actually, last week I had the honor to present a keynote on a MESA Africa conference, and especially looking at what we could learn from others in these challenging times, because that's what we see. And because of the pandemic, and we don't know where it will lead to, what kind of normal we will get back in the end, and when that will happen. But what we learned anyway is that innovation is important, and that means standardization and digitalization as two very important characteristics of the best-in-class companies. And both has to do also with IT and OT convergence, because that is one of the aspects of that story. And but let's go to the basics first. Manufacturers. Manufacturers transforming raw materials into valuable products, and valuable in the eyes and the perception of the consumers. As you can see in the schema on this slide, you know, the consumers should be convinced that what we deliver together with our partners in the supply chain, end to end, is indeed valuable to them, and that they like to buy and especially pay for those products and services. And if you look at this, you know, in the past we looked at what happens within the four walls of a factory, and IT and OT, especially OT, was also quite localized, you could say, within the factory. But that's not the story anymore today. In order to deliver that perfect order, the right product, the right quality, the right place, time, and of course the right profit margin for the manufacturers, otherwise you will not stay in business, and it's probably the end of business even. You know, we need to collaborate within the end-to-end supply chain, or it's mostly even a complex network. That's one of the things we discovered and found out, and also where the fourth industrial revolution or smart manufacturing initiatives are focusing at. And also, there's another dimension added to that we have to deal with the entire product life cycle, because we need to be agile in our response to the demand of those consumers, because that is what we need to do. So we need to utilize all our resources, and that means material, equipment, people, in order to be efficient and effective and compliant to regulations if applicable. But last but not least, it is agility that counts. And so the world has become more and more complex, at least the manufacturing world, I would say. But that's the ingredients of, let's say, the basic ingredients of the world we live in. And we need to improve continuously. Big bangs, I don't believe in those too much, but step by step we need to improve in order to remain successful over time and have, next to a profit, also continuity guaranteed, more or less, well, for our company. So IT and OT convergence, that's the central theme of this webinar, and bring these things together. It is often a challenge. There's a lot of new innovative technologies coming from smart manufacturing and Industry 4 initiatives, but that's not the only thing. I already mentioned this expansion of the world we have to look at, we have to focus at, including that end-to-end supply chain and the entire life cycle of the products. It's a new way of thinking, a new way of approaching and working, you could say. And if you look at IT and OT, definitely different worlds from the history of it, I would say. And they always have been working separately, and with different systems, different technologies, different vendors played a role. It comes down to the delivery of those technologies and the support of it. And now we have to integrate these two in the context of that smart manufacturing and Industry 4, the industrial Internet of Things, and the industrial internet, because we want to connect. In order to achieve that success, that strategic success, we need to know what's going on the shop floor. We need transparency and visibility. And that's where IIoT comes in. And that's why we need to converge and bring together IT and OT. Let's look what OT traditional, at least, is in manufacturing. Operational technology. It's the hardware, software system that control and execute the processes on our shop floors. And traditionally, it's associated with manufacturing, industrial automation, and control systems, as listed here. Even MES was often in the focus of the engineers and of the automation department in a company. That is changing, absolutely. MES is more often seen as part of IT, and basically it should be part of the business. That's what it is. It's not a goal in itself. It's supporting the business, enabling the business. And so that is also true to a large extent, I think, for the other systems. It can be extremely sophisticated, but it's not always networked. It is isolated often. And that needs to change, because we want to connect everything in order to create a transparency and visibility, not only, by the way, in our own factory, but basically in our entire supply chain. If you look at IT in manufacturing, well, IT refers to information infrastructure in a given operation, you could say, and everything that is necessary for processing and storing of that information, and it's associated with network servers, the whole lot, especially at enterprise level, like software like ERP and other business-related programs. But now you see also it is diving into the shop floor, I would say, into the factory. And if you look at that, PLCs are often soft PLC, so it's basically a computer, it's software, which is assuming that role, is performing that role of a PLC in automation. So, the borders are blurring. However, it's still different worlds, because if you look at it, IT is about communication, because we need to exchange information. So it's about connectivity. And also security, by the way, not mentioned on this slide, but it is absolutely an essential part of this, because we want to make sure that the data which are confidential, stay confidential, in generic IT at least. And OT, operations technology, well, that's not traditionally been networked. and you have many devices for monitoring, and you know, that's great. But if you look at it, it's the prime focus, you could say, is even not connecting and connectivity. It is safety for people and for the environment. That is the highest priority. You always want to have a safe situation. And if we talk about security, well, it's often relying on air gapping, just have no connection basically. And that's of course not the way to work anymore. We need to bring that together. If you look at the components of IT and OT, you see in a glance of an eye even that there are many differences. There is no commonality here, no overlap. It's different worlds, different silos in our organization, you can say. So there are different worlds. IT is often organized at corporate level. The CIO is responsible, and OT is often locally organized. The plant engineers, they are responsible for that. And so now if we really are able to converge, bring them together, then we create opportunities and great opportunities even. And it's also required for in the perspective of smart manufacturing in Industry 4. So on the other hand, it's still not only about the technologies. It's always also about the new ways of thinking, expanding, and that kind of things, as I mentioned before. And yes, there are different worlds. There are different silos in our organization, or at least that was the case till recent. And completely working separately from each other. There's different systems, technologies, skill sets of people. Culture is different, absolutely. And also this is often. And now we have to bring them together in the context of industrial Internet of Things, because we need the connectivity, we need the transparency and visibility of everything in what we do in that end-to-end supply chain in order to deliver that perfect order. Gartner said a couple of years ago this statement, the rising interest of the IoT, or industrial IoT even. Now, the keywords here are new opportunities. If you do so, if you bring them together, the digital business transformation, new opportunities will come up, and we can benefit from that in relation to our own strategy and being successful in achieving our strategic goals. The second important keyword is, I would say, monitoring and controlling. In this case, the physical devices, processes, etc. That's what we have to do. That's the other side of the medal. So it's about collaboration. Joining and collaborate, sharing information, and that kind of things, that will create those new business opportunities. So convergence of IT and OT, yes, it's about systems, about standards, but also about that new business approach, that new holistic approach, I would say. It's not just about the technology. Now, if we are not aligned with our overall strategy and strategic goals, that we contributing to that success, if we are not including our ways of working and not improving that and adapting that to the new requirements, the new demands from the market. Our governance and organizational structures need to be adapted in the same way, need to be aligned, and of course our people skill set. Because Mike Joost, the former chair of or president even of MESA International, said once, smart manufacturing, so advanced ways of working, is equal parts smart technology and smart people, 50-50. So it's not one without the other. So it is also about the people, and that means that we, in order to benefit from this, we need to have that alignment with our business goals and align also the ways of working, organization, governance, the people, and the technology which is enabling. And technology, that's where IT and OT both are part of. If you make that in a graphical overview, if you look at that, this is the manufacturing maturity model, as you can see. I won't go into detail because we don't have the time for that, but it has multiple levels, and the higher your maturity, level 5, a continuous improvement being built in, of course, that also means a better performance of your manufacturing company. And of course, the strategy is to climb those stairs upwards from 1 to up to 5 in the end, or at least that direction. But also to look at the domains I already mentioned, the ways of working, the processes, the organization and governance, the structure, the people skill set. And IT or the technology in general. Suppose if you would assess your maturity and you find something like that at level 2, but people are lagging behind. In this case, that does mean that your overall maturity is level 1 and not level 2, because it's the weakest link which determines where you are. And if you would now invest in IT and OT technology and the conversions of that only in that way and forget about the rest, this will happen. You create a bigger misalignment gap and your investment will not pay off. So the right way to do this is to climb those stairs of maturity to improve your overall performance step by step in an aligned way between those 4 domains. So people, the ways of working, the organization are equally important to the technology. Whether it's IT, OT, or smart technology, they're all included. So you need to have a good governance in aligning the business, that are the other 3 you could say, and the technology, IT, OT, smart, okay? And you need to do that at a corporate level because it's part of your strategy, your business strategy, and align the 2, business and IT, OT. And of course, at local level in the plants, we need to do the same. Because if you look at it, this matrix, you could say, the responsibility of the business at corporate level is to improve the revenue, improve cost, lower cost, and generate cash. But locally, in the plant, the bottom left-hand side, we need to exceed all those targets for quality, production, waste, etc. Of course, it's IT and OT. They have also the responsibilities, but you need to bring them together in line with the previous slide, the business and IT OT alignment. How to do so? Because there are different people, different skill sets, different expertises, different silos in many cases still today. So we need to have something like this, manufacturing system center of excellence, a group of people with all kinds of skill sets which are applicable in every corner of this quadrant, you could say, of this picture. And yes, this COE team has to support the business in order to be successful, to achieve those goals. And they are responsible for the IT/OT side, for the technical side. And this is the only way we know, as a best practice, you could say today, to tackle this challenge, to bring those things together and be successful as a manufacturing company. You need to know it's important, of course, that every line and every part of the plant, there are unique elements there, unique and important for your success as a manufacturer in your battle with your competition. They should be preserved, and the best practices should be done more often, maybe. So you need expertise, experts, you could say, on these subjects. On the other hand, you need other expertises, other knowledge, other input. So work together with others, internal and external. That's absolutely crucial for success. And standardization, application of standards, being a collection of best practices, is also an element of this. And this team, the COE team, should take care of that and take the lead if it comes down to step-by-step improvements. So we need a team. And theoretically, you have 2 options. Use an existing team, and of course, you need to fine-tune the necessary adjustment rather than start over. But you can benefit from the expertise that's already available. The people are in your company; they do collaborate to a certain extent. On the other hand, if you have the chance to build a team from scratch, then you can, of course, compose, create the right team with the right skill sets, etc., in one go. On the other hand, it's quite a challenge to find good people for this, because people are scarce, and especially I would say expert people, and that's a challenge today. We have 2 ways, and sometimes you have to you have no choice actually. Well, this slide, 6 plans to build that team, and it's no rocket science. Everyone can think of this. It's just common sense. But this is the way to get this done and give the guys right directions, how to start and where to go to. Have an explicit agreement on the team plan, because you have to think first and act then. Because if you just try and error, that kind of approaches, that's not good enough. You may find something, but it's a structured approach which is required. So summarizing, I would say, we have seen that manufacturing is not only about plants, but also the end-to-end supply chain and the entire product lifecycle are included. So the world has been enlarged, so you could say, and it also has become more complex. It is already difficult to get visibility and transparency within the plant. But now we also need to provide that to our partners in our supply network and in our product lifecycle, because otherwise it takes too much time to introduce new product, for example, develop and introduce new product successfully. And also we will not be able, if you look at the supply chain, to deliver that perfect order to the final consumers in the right way, that perfect order. In order to survive and thrive in manufacturing, there are 4 elements we need to continuously improve on, I would say. It's efficiency, effectiveness, compliance, and especially agility. That's what we need. Efficiency and effectiveness means the right quality product at the lowest possible cost. Compliance, well, it's a no-brainer. If there are regulations, you have to stick to them. But please do it in such a way that you also benefit yourselves from that. And agility, well, the dynamics of the demand has never been so big as today, and it's only getting worse or bigger, you could say. It's all about that perfect order delivery. All those new technologies, and I didn't mention any of them in this webinar, but there are quite a few. Smart advanced technologies will help us in the first place to enhance our worker skills. It has to go hand in hand. Smart manufacturing is equal parts technology and people. That's what we can use and as enablers often to achieve new goals, better performance, and even develop new business models. But overall, everywhere, as you can see, collaboration is key. And the transparency and visibility of what we do anywhere, IT and OT convergence is required. It's an enabler, it's a prerequisite. There's no doubt about it. But it's not only about the technology. It is a prerequisite, yes, but it's not only about system and technology. It's also about organization, culture, people. And a dedicated center of excellence, as I've introduced it a little bit, is a proven, successful best practice. In the end, I would say, don't forget about your people, because they are still making the difference. Thank you for your attention. I'd like to point you to one thing as shown on this slide. There is an IT Convergence for a Connected Factory education program. Normally it's a 1 day, but given the current situation, it's not classroom, it's online, and it are 2 sessions of 4 hours on December 15 and 16. So if you want to know more about IT and OT convergence, well, this may be an opportunity. You can read more on our website. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Just to let everybody know, I have now unmuted all of your microphones. So if you would like to join us, then you also have to unmute yourself to be part of the conversation. So I see we have a little bit of time for some questions. Jan, does IT-OT convergence mean local IT staff will no longer be required in the plant, and that it will all the work will then be done from corporate?
Well, definitely not, I would say. It is everyone, local and corporate, have to be involved. I showed you that slide that local support remains required as a local change manager, I would say. That's a minimum. So, but they need to be aligned. They need to work in the same direction and not in isolation. So it's definitely not that local staff will not longer be required, because then it would go wrong there, I can tell you.
Do you think that perhaps puts up some barriers and creates some hesitancy with regards to IT/OT convergence, that people are concerned about how their roles will be within it, or if they won't be needed, or it will change? Do you think that that's a possibility?
Of course, if people are afraid of change, then I think they have a difficult life, because everything is changing constantly.
Yeah.
And I think that if you look at this, it's also sometimes you see that the management of companies are a little bit hesitating about this change or investing in such initiatives. Well, you need to be aware, or they need to be aware, I would say, that if they don't change anything, they will be out of business soon. And even if you don't do change to a certain extent, but not fast enough or not in the right direction or the right way, you can be out of business. There is no guarantee for continuity if you don't fight for it and work hard for it. As an example, I could mention Nokia, which was once the biggest, world most well-known cell phone manufacturer. Within a few years, they did not make the right directions or the right decisions to change. They were out of business, and
Yeah.
at least in this domain of cell phones and smartphones, they missed the boat completely. They're still surviving as a company, but they do completely different things now.
Of
So
course.
I think that if you don't change, it is end of story. So
Sorry, Jan, carry on.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking about people, and obviously that's been quite a strong message through your presentation. With a centre of excellence, could this be the same group of people that assesses all the systems running in the factories, which provide consistent alignment, but also would encourage those that perhaps are a bit hesitant about the convergence of the IT and OT world within their organisation?
Well, yeah, I would say yes, absolutely, because the Center of Excellence team is addressing, should address at least, both the processes, the ways of working, the supporting tools, IT and OT, and other systems, and of course the other two domains of the maturity model, the governance and the organization structure and the people skill set, because you need to align all four of them. So the scope of work is also including those four domains, and so that is including all the technology basically in the sites, absolutely. And so if you have a team that's working on that already, that would be a great starting point. But if it's only technology, well, then they have to change their scope of work, I would say, to include those four domains.
Okay, so which obviously you want both IT and the business to support this, but from experience so far, is this typically led by IT?
I would say too often, yes, unfortunately, with sometimes dramatic results, because IT is focusing at technology, at IT, OT, whatever. But as said before, you need to do more than that. And the business must own it, because it's a business change program or business change initiative. And technology may never be a goal in itself. It's not the holy grail. It is supporting and it's enabling. So it's important, yes. It's even a prerequisite to now and then. But if it's only technology, it's also the slide I showed with the animation of the maturity and the level of performance. If you focus on just IT, just technology, it won't work. You won't get a return on investment. The only success you can achieve by have the integrated, the holistic approach, I would say, step by step.
Okay, I can see we've just got a minute left of our time, and I don't want to keep people, but just very quickly, Jan, is as a COE the best approach for measuring the success of an IT/OT project?
Well, of course, COE, as said, it's not never a guarantee for success in itself. It's not a goal in itself, but it's a way of organizing and getting all required experts involved, your experts in your manufacturing company, and all that they're all on the same page. That's important. COE is again technology as all the individual components or domains, not a holy grail. But it's definitely, if you look at COE, it's definitely a best practice. and if they act in the right way, bring the right people together, right expertise, and create that and focus on that alignment, alignment with the business goals, the alignment of the 4 domains, you know, that is, you could say, a kind of prerequisite for success. And but definitely more, there's more to it than just COE. But it's absolutely an important ingredient, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, just one quick question that's come in from Arjun. Where can I find the maturity model?
That's MESA white paper 38, and so you have to go to the MESA website, but I don't think it's free for non-members, but you can achieve it. I can buy it there. I don't know about pricing at this point in time. Of course, there is another way to get it. At least get the material if people participate to training programs about the manufacturing maturity. We have at least one program where we go into the details of the manufacturing maturity model, and also the way how to assess your current maturity, resulting in a plan to improve, detect those weakest links, I would say, and a plan how to work on them, how to improve them.
Okay, sorry, Jan, I apologize for keeping everybody, but there is just one more question. Are IIoT convergent projects usually treated as standalone projects, or do they usually go hand in hand with digital transformation projects or adoption of a new MES solution, for example?
Well, first of all, of course, there are quite a few companies that have a digital strategy, you would say, moving into that smart manufacturing and Industry 4 domain or realm. On the other hand, many companies are still working on MES, and that's great, because if you look at the characteristics of the industrial revolutions we have seen so far, and basically the smart and Industry 4 is part of the 4th industrial revolution. Every revolution is always built on top of a solid foundation of the previous one. So if we talk about Industry 3, and most companies, to be honest, I think over 2/3, maybe even 3/4 of them are still working on Industry 3, MES MOM kind of solutions. And so as a part of that initiative, this could definitely, it's absolutely, I would say, a must to address this IIoT convergence as well.
Okay, Paul, I hope that answers.
Also to create that foundation for the future, for Industry 4, for the 4th industrial revolution. And so if you can work on that in conjunctions or as part of your MES MOM initiative, that's great.
Great, thank you, Jan. Paul, if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to either myself or Jan directly. We have run over, but I think, you know, the same with this morning's session, there are endless questions we could ask about IIoT convergence. So Jan, thank you very much for giving us an overview and just scraping the surface of what is a very interesting subject. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure to do, and I definitely am available for any questions. Just send me an email, and I will respond to that. We'll be happy to respond to that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to everybody that's joined us today, and we will be in touch to share the recording by tomorrow evening. Thank you.